M171E helicopters inducted into Border Guard Bangladesh Air Wing. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina declares BGB has three-dimensional force.
বিজিবি এখন অন্যান্য বাহিনীর মতো নেতৃত্বাত্মক বাহিনীতে উন্নীত হয়েছে। বিজিবি এয়ার উইং এর এই যাত্রা বিজিবির সার্বিক কর্মকাণ্ডকে আরো গতিশীল করবে বলে আমি বিশ্বাস করি।
Jatiyo সংসদ special session on occasion of Mujib Borsho begins. Joe Biden becomes new U.S. president, defeating Donald Trump in breathtaking election. The president and the Prime Minister of Bangladesh congratulate new U.S. president. BNP's multi-party democracy is another shape as yes-no vote. Democracy to BNP is nothing but distorting history of independence, says Obaidul Qadir. Wearing masks now mandatory in all religious institutions, including mosques, temples, churches and pagodas in the country. No one to be allowed to construct buildings in unregulated and unplanned manner, declares LGRD Minister Tajul Islam. And in Spanish La Liga football, Barcelona beat Real Betis by 5 goals. Assalamu alaikum, this is Kimi Orin welcoming you to News at 10 on BTV, BTV World and BTV Chattogram Center. Those were the headlines, let's move on to the details. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina declared Border Guard Bangladesh BGP a three-dimensional force after the induction of two helicopters, Bir Sreshto Nur Mohammad and Bir Sreshto Abdul Rauf, into it. The Prime Minister said this while addressing a program for inducting two Mi-171E helicopters into the air wing of BGP. The program was held at the BGP headquarters, Pilkhana. She attended the program virtually from Gonobhavan. Mentioning that two modern Mi-171E helicopters have been procured from Russia to turn BGB into a 3D force, the Prime Minister said it's not only BGB's development, rather a matter of pride and joy for country's people in Mujib Borsho. The Premier hoped that these two helicopters would play more effective roles in conducting BGP's operational and administrative activities, especially at the hard-to-reach areas of Chattogram Hill tracts.
বিজিবি এখন অন্যান্য বাহিনীর মতো নেতৃত্বাত্মক বাহিনীতে উন্নীত হয়েছে। এই মুজিব বর্ষেই বিজিবি তাদের দুটি হেলিকপ্টার পেল, এটা অত্যন্ত গৌরবের ও আনন্দের বলে আমি মনে করি। বিজিবিতে হেলিকপ্টার সংযোজনের বিষয়টি এটা অত্যন্ত গুরুত্বপূর্ণ। বিজিবি এয়ার উইং এর এই যাত্রা বিজিবির সার্বিক কর্মকাণ্ডকে আরো গতিশীল করবে বলে আমি বিশ্বাস করি। উক্ত দুটি হেলিকপ্টারের উদ্বোধনের মাধ্যমে আমি আজ বিজিবিকে একটি ত্রিমাত্রিক বাহিনী হিসেবে ঘোষণা করছি যে আজকে থেকে বিজিবি ত্রিমাত্রিক বাহিনী।
Home Minister Asaduzzaman Khan and Public Security Division Senior Secretary Mustafa Kamaluddin also spoke on the occasion, while BGP Director General Major General Mohammad Shafinul Islam gave the welcome speech. Later, a replica of Mi-171E helicopter was given to Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has urged public representatives of local government bodies, including newly elected chairmen of 3 district councils, to stand beside the people and work for their welfare with the mentality of services. She made the call while addressing an oath-taking ceremony of the chairmen of Madripur, Faridpur and Moulvibazar district councils today, who were elected in recently held by-elections. The Prime Minister administered the oath to the newly elected chairman of the 3 district councils from Gonobhavan through video conference. Chairman of Madripur District Council Munir Chaudhry, Faridpur District Council Mohammad Shamsul Haq and Moulvibazar District Council Misbahur Rahman, who were elected in the recent by-polls, were sworn in at a ceremony at Bangladesh Secretariat. In her speech, the Prime Minister urged the public representatives to give special focus for the overall development of their localities.
আমরা আওয়ামী লীগ জাতির পিতার হাতে গড়া সংগঠন, আদর্শ নিয়ে এই সংগঠন গড়ে উঠেছে। জনগণের সেবা করাই আমাদের কর্তব্য। কাজে সেই সেবার মনোভাব নিয়ে মানুষের পাশে দাঁড়াতে হবে, মানুষের জন্য কাজ করতে হবে। কাজে সেই চিন্তা নিয়েই আপনারা চলবেন, এটা আমরা আশা করি। ইনশাল্লাহ এই দুর্যোগ আসবে, আর সেই দুর্যোগ মোকাবেলা করেই আমরা এগিয়ে যাব। জাতির পিতা নিজেই 7 মার্চের ভাষণে বলেছিলেন যে আমাদের কথা বাঙালিদের কেউ দাবায় রাখতে পারবে না, তো কেউ দাবায় রাখতে পারবে না। ইনশাল্লাহ আমরা এগিয়ে যাব এবং জাতির পিতার স্বপ্নের ক্ষুধামুক্ত দারিদ্র্যমুক্ত সোনার বাংলাদেশ আমরা গড়ে তুলব।
Special session of the Jatiyo সংসদ called Marking the Mujib Borsho has begun today. It is the 10th session of the 11th Parliament. The session began in the evening with Speaker Dr. Shirin Sharmin Chaudhry in the chair. The Parliament adopted an obituary motion for the death of a number of eminent personalities, including former Gonu Porishad member Said A.K.M. Imdadul Bari, former State Minister A.K.M. Musharraf Hussain, former members of the Parliament Momtaz Begum, Nurul Islam, Khondokar Ghulam Mustafa and Shamsul Haq, former Attorney General Mahbube Alam and senior lawyer Rafiqul Haq. The obituary motion was passed unanimously after being presented by the Speaker. Later, 1 minute silence was observed and dua and munajat was offered, seeking divine blessings for their departed souls. Besides, a number of bills, including Women and Children Repression Checking Amendment Bill 2020, Bangladesh Madrasa Education Board Bill 2020, and Narcotics Controlling Amendment Bill 2020, were sent to concerned parliamentary standing committees for making report after scrutiny. Sitting of the special session of the Jatiyo সংসদ will begin at 6 p.m. tomorrow. The Democratic candidate Joe Biden has become the 46th president of the United States by defeating Donald Trump in a fierce war of ballots. The 78-year president-elect has made a record with the highest number of popular votes in the history of the U.S. presidential race. Biden's running mate, 56-year Indian origin Kamala Harris, has become the first female vice president of the country. In an instant reaction, the U.S. President-elect Joe Biden said he wants to be the president of all Americans. Meanwhile, Bangladesh's President Mohammad Abdul Hamid and Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina have greeted Joe Biden on his victory as the President of the United States. Donald Trump is the first president who failed to win a second term in nearly 3 decades. Democratic Joe Biden is the oldest ever president in the history of the United States. This year's U.S. presidential race was full of suspense. Usually, the results of the polls come out on the night of the voting day, but this year it took more than 3 days to finish counting, as it was presumed that a record 66.9% voters had cast ballots, which is the highest in 120 years. The entire world was focusing on the vote counting in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, and Alaska. At the beginning of the counting, Donald Trump is leading in Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, and North Carolina. But the scenario changed as ballots cast through post or email began arriving. Finally, Joe Biden took lead in Pennsylvania and bagged all 20 of its electoral votes, cruising to the presidency by crossing the finishing line of 270 electoral votes. With the news of Biden's win, his supporters took to streets across the United States to celebrate victory. In the meantime, security of Joe Biden has been beefed up and a bar was put on movement of planes over the sky of his residence. Awami League General Secretary Obaidul Qadir has said BNP's democracy is to destroy country's history of liberation war. He said there was yes-no voting system, another form of multi-party democracy of BNP. Obaidul Qadir made the remarks in response to BNP's continuous lie and indecent speech against the government over November 7 through video conference from his official residence in the capital this morning. About BNP's democracy rescue and oaths to release Begum Khaleda Zia, Obaidul Qadir said they often take such oaths, then people don't see them anymore and cannot even find leaders on the streets.
BNP নেতারাই আসলে বাধ্য করেন তাদের যে অবিরাম বিশুদ্ধার এবং মিথ্যাচার অপরাজনীতি এর বিরুদ্ধে কথা বলা এবং এটার জবাব দেওয়া আওয়ামী লীগের জেনারেল সেক্রেটারি হিসেবে এটা আমার দায়িত্ব। দেশের জনগণের কাছে 7ই নভেম্বর মুক্তিযোদ্ধা হত্যা দিবস, গণতন্ত্র হত্যা দিবস হিসেবে চিহ্নিত হবে। জেনারেল জিয়া নাকি এরপর বহুদলীয় গণতন্ত্র প্রতিষ্ঠা করেছিলেন। জানতে চাই কোন সে গণতন্ত্র? তাদের বহুদলীয় গণতন্ত্র ছিল রাতের বেলায় কারফিউ দিয়ে গণতন্ত্র, যাকে বলা হয় কারফিউ গণতন্ত্র। সংখ্যালঘু সম্প্রদায়ের কোনো নেতা সরকারের বিরুদ্ধে নিষ্ক্রিয়তার অভিযোগ করেন, যা আদৌ সত্য নয়। আওয়ামী লীগের আমলেই হিন্দু সম্প্রদায়ের প্রতিটি দুর্গাপূজা শান্তিপূর্ণভাবে সম্পন্ন হয়েছে। এই করোনার সময়ও দুর্গাপূজা হয়েছে শান্তিপূর্ণ পরিবেশে। সরকার কখনো নীরব দর্শক হয়নি। নাসিরনগর, গাইবান্ধা, রামুসহ প্রতিটি ঘটনায় কঠোর ব্যবস্থা নেওয়া হয়েছে।
Local Government, Rural Development and Cooperatives Minister and convener of the newly formed Detailed Area Plan DAP Cabinet Committee, Mohammad Tajul Islam, has said, from now, none can construct building illegally or in an unplanned way. He told this to the journalists at the Secretariat today following the first meeting of the new DAP Review Cabinet Committee. Environment, Forest and Climate Change Affairs Minister Mohammad Shahabuddin, Land Minister Saifuzaman Chaudhry, State Minister for Housing and Public Works Sharif Ahmed, State Minister for Shipping Khalid Mahmood Chaudhry, and senior secretaries and concerned senior officials of different ministries were present at the meeting. The DAP convener said all have to construct buildings following the guidelines for making the capital city Dhaka livable. A work plan to this effect will be formulated soon, he added. The Ministry of Religious Affairs has made obligatory the wearing of masks in all religious institutions, including mosques, temples, churches and pagodas, in view of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. The ministry today issued a notification with some instructions in this regard. In order to ensure wearing of masks in all areas, including religious institutions, to prevent the possible second wave of COVID-19, all have been requested to follow these instructions in continuation of the previous notification. The mosque committees must ensure that announcements are made through the mosque's mics before every prayer to wear masks, along with displaying banners at the entrance of the mosques in this regard. Followers of other religions, including Hindus, Buddhists and Christians, must enter the places of worship wearing masks, and the relevant worship committee must ensure that banners are displayed at the main entrance for wearing masks. Extensive campaigns should be launched to make the public aware about no mask, no service. The slogan should be 19 patients died in the country in the last 24 hours, increasing the death toll from the pandemic to 6,067. The recovery count rose to 3,38,145 after another 1,577 recovered during the period. A press release of the Director General of Health Services said today. It said the tally of infections has surged to 4,20,238 with 1,474 new cases being confirmed. Moving on to international news. COVID-19 global death toll crosses 12,50,000 as more than 7,436 people died in the last 24 hours globally. More than 5,413,000 are infected globally, and more than 3,56,41,000 people have recovered so far. The U.S., the current epicenter of the pandemic, has now 1,18,08,180 confirmed cases and 2,43,302 deaths. Now news from the world of sports. Barcelona beat Real Betis by 5-2 in the Spanish La Liga football last night. Lionel Messi scored 2 goals, while Ousmane Dembele, Griezmann and Pedri scored 1 goal each for Barca at Nou Camp. Sanabria and Garcia scored 1 goal each for Real Betis. On the other hand, Atletico Madrid beat Cadiz by 4-0 and Sevilla defeated Osasuna by 1-0 goal. In the English Premier League football, Manchester United defeated Everton by 3-1, Chelsea defeated Sheffield United by 4-1 and Crystal Palace beat Leeds United by 4-1 goals. In League One, Paris Saint-Germain PSG defeated Rennes by 3-0. Before we end the bulletin, headlines once again. 2 Mi-171E helicopters inducted into Border Guard Bangladesh Air Wing. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina declares BGB as three-dimensional force. Jatiyo সংসদ special session on occasion of Mujib Barsho begins. Joe Biden becomes new U.S. President, defeating Donald Trump in breathtaking election. President and Prime Minister of Bangladesh congratulate new U.S. President. BNP's multi-party democracy is another shape was yes-no vote. Democracy to BNP is nothing but distorting history of independence, says Obaidul Qadir. Wearing masks now mandatory in all religious institutions, including mosques, temples, churches and pagodas in the country. No one to be allowed to construct buildings in unregulated and unplanned manner, declares Algeria Minister Tajul Islam. And in Spanish La Liga football, Barcelona beat Real Betis by 5 goals. That's all from the newsroom for the moment. Thank you for being with us, and we invite you to watch our next news at 11:30 in Bangla. Until then, Khoda Hafiz.